did have a recent event where you took back the licensing, the publishing rights for League of Legends in Southeast Asia, and this really challenged your team in terms of forecast, in terms of overall capacity and the ability to handle your volume and to guarantee your players' success in their most important moments. I love that example and the stuff you guys did in the back end in order to adapt and respond to that. So I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with our audience what are some of the stuff that you guys did to adapt to that and respond to these unforeseen spikes.
Yeah, so earlier this year, we took back publishing for League of Legends within the Southeast Asia region. That was a big moment for us as Riot and even for our players, right? So one of the big goals was that we wanted to make the transition to Riot ecosystem and servers as seamless as possible. So imagine if you were a player, we wanted to make sure that your data seamlessly migrates over to Riot ecosystem. So, come the launch date earlier this year, you're able to just pick up where you left off within the Garena ecosystem. So your progress, whether be your purchase history, everything gets ported over. And this was a big bang moment. So we prepared months in advance for this. But when you have such big moments, a lot of times your projections or what you anticipate as the issues do not turn out to be the case. Because also, for the ones that you anticipate and predict, you already have processes in place. So one of the big pain points that we experienced was in a matter of like 6 to 7 hours on the launch day, there was an unforeseen issue that started to crop up. And we had to get creative in ways to solve this particular pain point for our players, because this was thousands of players reporting a particular issue. And we did not capture it in our knowledge articles. We did not have processes, policies to address this particular issue. Now, end of that particular day, we are left with thousands of players having reported this issue. Now, as someone who is a player myself, I would want to be able to get back into the game immediately. Already a day is too long. So what I do not want is Riot Games taking a week to solve my issue, and then the following week, I get back into the game. So that's where we thought, all right, if we are going to deploy all our workforce and capacity, yes, we can solve this issue in a week's time, potentially. But is that the right experience for our players? And that's where we said, all right, how can we go ahead and leverage our player community who is so passionate to self-solve and potentially share with us some of the information around this particular issue, right? So and these issues are complex in nature. It's not just about going ahead and saying, hey, I want to delete my account, or hey, I want to transition my account. These are, if scenario A holds true, then I want to delete my account. And if you want to delete your account, then we need a consent from you. Similarly, for any kind of transaction. So these are complex issues where it requires a bit of back and forth. So we created a way for our players to share this information with us and co-solve this problem, which allowed us to be able to go ahead and really solve their pain points much faster than what we would have been able to otherwise approach through a standard method. And beyond that, we tried potentially all possible tricks in the book, right? So we had global workforce, which was multilingual in nature. We had a technology stack, which would allow for self-serve. We had knowledge articles published. So this was not to be reactive at the end of the day. As I said, in a matter of hours, situation was changing. We had issues cropping up. So we had to be really proactive in getting ahead of the curve and making sure that we are limiting the pain point that our players are experiencing, because waiting for a day is potentially too long, because then you're not really guaranteeing success in that big moment and it's passed away.
Yeah. So you tried all your regular playbook in terms of addressing extenuating circumstances or a spike in volume, but you also went above and beyond with leveraging your community. And one of the interesting things that you shared, and it kind of stuck with me, this wasn't some elaborate technology or a tool or a software solution that you had to implement. This was as simple as creating like a simple survey form, question answer format, and then engaging with their community as quickly as possible, asking them, what are your top issues that you are um, facing, and you use that as a way to kind of like cut through the noise of your traditional methods of um, aggregating and analyzing data, because you didn't have any historical context for this issue, right? It was first time that you were experiencing this with the transition and the all the players that migrated from one platform to another. So you had to think on your feet and be very creative. So I love the leveraging the community aspect of it. And I think the lesson here is that you don't have to be fancy with it. You just have to do the fundamentals right, which is you need to have a channel to listen to your customers, and you need to act on it very quickly.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It wasn't about going ahead and deploying a fancy technology or doing something out of the ordinary from that perspective, but it was really about being cognizant, intentional about the fact that we want to deliver success in this big moment, and we want to be able to put ourselves from in the shoes of a player and think through how is it that we can resolve these pain points in a period that mattered for our players, right? So it's not about going ahead. An example that I would share, Lucas, is as a player in Vietnam, the most optimal experience for us when we are not experiencing a big moment like this or a spike would be to have someone who speaks Vietnamese go all the way out, really solve the player pain point and invest that time and energy. Now, we could do that in a normal scenario, but when you have a big moment, what does that player really need? The player wants their issue being resolved as at the earliest. Now it doesn't matter to us, like, or to the player, if that issue is resolved in Vietnamese. Yes, that would be an ideal experience, but if somebody can go ahead and resolve their issue in English, or if they can contribute by themselves in sharing some information or doing a bit of self-serve in solving that pain point, which would enable them to get back into the game faster, that is an effort that they're willing to go ahead and make. So it's about assessing that fine balance of what matters to a player in that moment, and not just sticking to the standard framework of going ahead and saying, okay, this is how we do it, so let's just stick to that.
Yeah, and I really like that. You've already mentioned it a few times over our call now. You keep going back to the same thing, which is the player experience. And it sounds like it's a very central function in how you guys operate and how you develop all of your processes, whether it's tools, whether it's your knowledge based articles, or even your outsourcing in your workforce strategy.